Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's story. Today, I want to take you on a beautiful and powerful journey, a journey that began over 1400 years ago. It is the story of Islam, a story of faith, a story of struggle, a story of peace and love and truth. So sit back, relax, and open your heart. Let the words carry you, like a river flowing gently through time. Part 1. A world in darkness. Long, long ago, before cities were filled with lights, before tall buildings touched the sky, and before people could send messages with just a click. There was a vast, hot desert. The sun was strong, and the nights were cold. In the middle of that desert, there was a land called Arabia. Life was hard there. People had to travel for days and days just to find water or trade goods. Some people were rich and powerful, but many were poor and weak. And in this land, something was missing. People believed in many different gods. They made statues from stone and wood and prayed to them. But these gods did not speak. They did not listen. The hearts of the people were filled with fear, not peace. Many people were treated unfairly. Women were not respected. The poor were often ignored, and strong people ruled over the weak. But change was coming, and that change would begin with one man. Part 2. A boy named Muhammad. In the city of Mecca, a baby boy was born. His name was Muhammad. His father had passed away before he was born, and when he was very young, his mother also died. Muhammad was an orphan, but he was not alone. He was raised by his grandfather and later by his uncle. From a young age, people noticed something special about him. He did not lie. He did not cheat. He was kind to everyone, rich or poor, young or old. People called him Al-Amin, which means the trustworthy one. As he grew older, Muhammad worked as a merchant. He traveled across deserts and cities, selling goods and speaking with people. He was honest in all his work. One day, a noble woman named Khadijah heard about Muhammad. She asked him to work for her. He did so well that she later proposed marriage. They got married and became partners in life and faith. Muhammad loved to think deeply. Sometimes, he would leave the busy city and climb into the mountains. There, in a small cave called Hira, he would sit in silence. He would look at the stars. He would think about life. He would pray. And one night, something happened that changed the world forever. Part 3. The Night of Light. The First Revelation. It was a quiet night. The moon was high, and the stars were shining brightly over the mountains near Mecca. Inside the dark cave of Hira, Muhammad sat alone. He was thinking, praying, searching for truth in the silence. Suddenly, the silence broke. A light filled the cave, and an angel appeared. It was the angel Gabriel, known in Arabic as Jibril. Muhammad's heart pounded. He did not know what was happening. Gabriel spoke with a powerful voice. He said, "Read." Muhammad was afraid. He replied, "I cannot read." The angel repeated, "Read." And again Muhammad said, "I cannot read." Then Gabriel embraced him and said, "Read in the name of your Lord, who created man from a clot. Read, and your Lord is the most generous, who taught by the pen, taught man that which he knew not." These words became the first verses of the Quran, Surah Al-Alaq. Muhammad was shaking. His heart was filled with awe. He rushed down the mountain and ran home to Khadijah. He said, "Cover me, cover me." And she wrapped him in a blanket. She held him close and listened. And when he finished speaking, she looked at him with love and said, "By God, he will never disgrace you. You keep good relations with your family. You help the poor. You speak the truth. You carry the burdens of others. You are good to guests, and you stand for justice. Khadijah believed in him. She took him to a wise man named Waraqah ibn Nawfal, who told Muhammad, "What you saw was the same angel who came to Moses. You are a prophet." Part 4. A Message of Peace. After that night, the revelations continued. Muhammad received more and more messages from Allah, God, through the angel Gabriel. The messages were clear. They spoke of one God, not many. One God who created the heavens and the earth. One God who sees all, knows all, and loves his creation. The messages called for people to change, to stop worshiping idols, to speak the truth, to be kind to the poor and the weak, to forgive, to give charity, to live with honesty and peace. At first, only a few people believed in Muhammad. His wife Khadijah was the first, then his cousin Ali, a young boy, then his close friend Abu Bakr, and slowly others joined. They prayed quietly. They gathered in secret. They loved their faith. But not everyone was happy about it. Part 5. Trials and Tears in Mecca. The leaders of Mecca were angry. They did not want change. They were powerful, and they feared Muhammad's message would take away their control. So, they started to hurt the Muslims. They called Muhammad a liar. They laughed at him. They threw dirt on him when he prayed. They beat the poor believers. They even killed some of them. But Muhammad stayed calm. He did not fight with fists. He answered hate with peace. He told his followers, "Be patient. God is with us." One day, the Muslims were praying in secret, and a strong man named Umar ibn al-Khattab came with his sword, planning to hurt Muhammad. But on the way, he heard the words of the Quran, and something changed in his heart. He cried, he dropped his sword, and he said, "I believe." Umar became one of the strongest defenders of Islam. Still, life in Mecca grew harder. So hard that some Muslims had to leave their homes and go to a faraway land called Abyssinia, modern-day Ethiopia. The king there was kind. He welcomed them, but Muhammad stayed in Mecca, trusting in God. Even when his beloved wife Khadijah passed away, even when his kind uncle Abu Talib died, even when he stood all alone. But then, something beautiful happened. A new city was waiting for him, a new beginning. Part 6. A new home. The Hijra, migration to Medina. Mecca was no longer safe for the Muslims. They were being hurt, threatened, and chased. But far away, in a city called Yathrib, people had heard of Muhammad. They had heard of his honesty, his kindness, his patience. And the people of Yathrib said, "Come to us. We will protect you. We will follow your message." This was a sign of hope. This was the mercy of Allah. Muhammad told his followers, now is the time to go. One by one, the Muslims left Mecca in secret. They left behind their homes, their belongings, their comfort. They carried only their faith and their love for Allah. Muhammad stayed behind with his loyal friend Abu Bakr. They were the last to leave. But the leaders of Mecca heard of their plan. They were furious. They sent men to capture Muhammad. They searched everywhere. Muhammad and Abu Bakr hid in a cave on the way to Yathrib. It was dark and quiet inside. Outside, the enemies were very close. Abu Bakr whispered in fear, "If they look down, they will see us." But Muhammad, calm and strong, said, "Do not be afraid. Allah is with us." And then something amazing happened. Allah sent a spider to spin a web across the cave entrance. And a dove made a nest and laid eggs there. When the enemies came, they saw the web and the nest. They said, no one could be inside. This cave has not been touched. And they left. Muhammad and Abu Bakr waited, then continued their journey. After many days of travel through the hot desert, they finally reached Yathrib. The people were waiting. They smiled, they cheered, they welcomed Muhammad with open hearts. And from that day on, Yathrib became known as Medina, the city of the Prophet. Part 7. Building a new community. In Medina, a new chapter began. It was not just a city, it became a home, a place of peace, love, and unity. Muhammad built a masjid, a mosque, not just for prayer, but for learning, helping, and caring for others. He brought people together, rich and poor, black and white, Arab and non-Arab. He taught them that all people are equal in the eyes of God. He made peace between the tribes of Medina, who had once fought bitter wars. He made a constitution, an agreement, that gave rights to everyone, even those who were not Muslim. Everyone was free to worship, free to live in peace, free to be safe. He said, "The best of you are those who are kindest to others." The Muslims now had a safe home, but their enemies in Mecca still wanted to stop them. They planned to attack. And so, the Muslims had to prepare. Part 8. The Battle of Badr, a test of faith. 1 year after the Hijrah, the Muslims faced their first major battle. It was called the Battle of Badr. The Muslims were only about 300 men. They had little armor, few swords, and no strong army. But they had something greater: faith. The Meccan army came with 1,000 strong men, armed and ready. It seemed impossible for the Muslims to win. Muhammad prayed all night, crying to Allah, "O Allah, if this group is destroyed, there will be none left to worship you on this earth." Then the battle began. It was fierce. Dust filled the air, voices shouted, hearts pounded. And then, the tide turned. Allah sent angels to help the Muslims. And against all odds, the Muslims won. It was a victory not just of battle. It was a victory of hope, of courage, of trust in Allah. Part 9. The Heart of the Prophet. As Islam grew, so did the challenges. More battles followed: Uhud, the trench, with pain, lessons, and sacrifice. But through it all, Muhammad remained patient, humble, and gentle. When people insulted him, he forgave. When he had power, he used it for peace. When children came to him, he smiled and played with them. When the poor came, he shared his food. When the sick came, he sat beside them. He taught that paradise is under the feet of mothers. He taught that giving a smile is a charity. He taught that the strong are not those who fight with fists, but those who control their anger. Even his enemies began to see. This man was truly the mercy to the worlds. Part 10. The Conquest of Mecca, a city forgiven. Years passed. The Muslims grew in strength and number. More people joined Islam every day, men and women, young and old. The message was spreading like light in the darkness. But Mecca, the city of the Prophet's birth, the city that had once chased him out, still stood against him. Then came a moment of truth. A treaty between the Muslims and the Meccans was broken. The time for justice had come. But this was not to be a war of revenge. It was to be a march of mercy. The Prophet Muhammad gathered an army of 10,000 believers. They marched toward Mecca, not with anger, but with dignity, with calm hearts, with trust in Allah. The people of Mecca looked out in fear. Would Muhammad destroy them now? Would he burn the city? Would he punish them for all the years of pain? He entered Mecca peacefully. He rode his camel with his head bowed low in humility. He walked to the Kaaba, the holy house of worship built by Prophet Abraham. It had been filled with idols for generations. With his blessed hands, Muhammad pointed to each idol and recited, "Truth has come, and falsehood has vanished." Falsehood is always bound to vanish. From the Quran, Surah Al-Isra, 1781. One by one, the idols were removed. And then, he turned to the people of Mecca, the same ones who had insulted him, beaten him, tried to kill him, and he asked, "What do you think I will do with you?" They stood silent, unsure. And then he said the words that would echo through time. "I say to you what Joseph said to his brothers, there is no blame on you today. You are all free." The people wept. He had forgiven them. Their hearts melted, and many of them entered Islam that day. It was not a sword that opened Mecca. It was mercy. Part 11. The Farewell, a final message of love. 2 years later, Muhammad felt that his time on earth was near its end. He gathered the Muslims. Over 100,000 people came from every corner of Arabia. Together, they made the farewell pilgrimage. They walked, stood, prayed, and remembered Allah together. On the plain of Arafat, the Prophet stood upon a mountain. He raised his voice so that all could hear. His words were soft but powerful. They were like a father's last advice to his children. He said, "O people, listen to me. I may not be with you next year. Your blood, your property, and your honor are sacred. Do not hurt each other. Do not steal. Do not cheat. Men and women treat each other kindly. You have rights over your wives, and they have rights over you. Be just. Be gentle. O people, all humans come from Adam and Eve. No Arab is better than a non-Arab, and no white person is better than a black person, except by righteousness. Remember, one day you will meet your Lord. He will ask you about your deeds. I leave behind 2 things, the Quran and my example. If you hold on to them, you will never go wrong." And then, the last verse of the Quran was revealed. "Today I have perfected your religion for you, completed my blessing upon you, and chosen for you Islam as your way." Surah Al-Ma'idah 5:3. Part 12. The Final Goodbye. Soon after the pilgrimage, the Prophet became ill. He felt weak. His steps slowed. His body ached. But his heart was still full of love. He continued to teach. He continued to smile. He continued to pray. Then one morning, he came out to the mosque. The people were praying. He looked at them and smiled. It was a smile of peace, a smile of farewell. He went back inside. And soon after, he returned to his Lord. The city of Medina fell into silence. Hearts broke. Tears fell like rain. But Abu Bakr, his closest friend, stood and said, "Whoever worships Muhammad, know that Muhammad has died. But whoever worships Allah, know that Allah is ever living and never dies." Part 13. The Rightly Guided Caliphs, Carriers of the Light. After the Prophet Muhammad passed away, the Muslims felt lost. But his teachings remained strong in their hearts. They knew the mission must continue. His close companion Abu Bakr became the first caliph, the leader of the Muslims. He was gentle, wise, and brave. He reminded the people, "Stand firm. The religion of Allah is alive. The Prophet is gone, but his message lives on." Abu Bakr led the Muslims with justice. He protected the faith and united the people. And even as his heart ached for his beloved friend, he stayed strong. After him came Umar ibn al-Khattab, the second caliph. He was firm, fair, and full of love for truth. He walked the streets at night to make sure no one went hungry. He prayed with tears. He ruled with wisdom. Under his leadership, Islam spread far and wide, to lands like Egypt, Syria, Persia. But this was not a spreading of war. It was a spreading of justice, knowledge, and light. People accepted Islam not by force, but by seeing its beauty. After Umar came Uthman ibn Affan, a gentleman known for his charity. He gave wealth to help the poor and funded wells for clean water. He gathered all the Quran into one official copy so that it would remain safe and unchanged. Then came Ali ibn Abi Talib, cousin of the Prophet, and a man of great knowledge and courage. He taught people to think deeply, to act justly, and to hold firmly to the truth. These four were called the rightly guided caliphs because they followed the footsteps of the Prophet with hearts full of faith and hands full of service. Part 14. A world touched by Islam. As time went on, Islam reached lands near and far, to the mountains of Afghanistan and the forests of Indonesia, to the rivers of Africa and the palaces of Spain, to the markets of India and the courts of China. But wherever Islam went, its light brought more than religion. It brought civilization. Hospitals were built. Universities were founded. Libraries filled with books of science, poetry, astronomy, and medicine. Muslim scholars translated the works of the Greeks and Romans. They developed algebra, advanced medicine, and studied the stars. They wrote beautiful poetry. They called to prayer from minarets that touched the skies. All of this was done because their hearts held the words, "Read in the name of your Lord." Part 15. The values of Islam. Islam is not just a religion of rules. It is a way of life, a way of love. It teaches us that God is one and He is most merciful. Every human being is precious. The best among us are not the richest or most powerful, but the most kind, honest, and humble. Islam teaches, pray to stay close to your Creator, give to care for the poor, fast to feel the hunger of others, visit to connect with the global family of believers, live with a heart full of peace and justice. It says, do not lie, do not steal, be good to your parents, help your neighbor, feed the hungry, love for others what you love for yourself. It says, indeed, with hardship comes ease. Quran, Surah Ash-Shar 94:6. Part 16. The story never ends. A message for you. This story began in the sands of Arabia, with one man, one message, one light. And now, it has reached you. Wherever you are, whatever language you speak, whatever struggles you face, this story is for you. It is not a story of the past. It is a light for today. When you feel alone, remember, Allah is with you. When you feel weak, remember, prayer is your strength. When you feel lost, remember, the Quran is your guide. And when you feel small, remember the Prophet Muhammad once said, if the day of judgment comes and you have a seed in your hand, plant it. Because even the smallest act matters. Thank you for listening. Thank you for walking this journey. You have heard the story of Islam, a story of hope, a story of mercy, a story of love. Now, let it live in your heart. Peace be upon you. Assalamu alaikum